household of light. They are symbols of piety, teaching us all how to love and sacrifice in the way of Allah. We are taught that during trials, difficulties, our best company is Allah. When we get closer to Allah by doing the right things, by staying content, by being patient, and still being grateful, life becomes easier and beautiful. In Surah Fajr, Allah says, I give you ease and blessings, difficulties and trials, only to test you and see if you'll still be grateful and still be on my path. So my sisters and brothers and all the kids out there, remember these lessons taught to us by our beloved Imams. I would like to take all of you kids back in Karbala on the 10th of Muharram to show you the sibling love and the importance of it. We are taught how to stick together in difficult times, how to love and respect one another, because that's the only way to be successful in this life and the hereafter. Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam showed us to be kind to the younger ones and to help them because they might not be able to help themselves. We are also taught that the path towards creating change comes from two sources: intention and action. To create positive changes in our lives, we must make the intention to create change. Whether that's starting to have better time management and completing our homework right after we come back from school, or being kinder to our family. We must act on these intentions. When we do this, we create the path towards success. Allahumma salli alayhi ala.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Thank you so much, Sister Dua Kazmi. That was an amazing spoken word. I would like next to call upon our dear respected speaker for the night, Sayyid Bilal Rizvi. Please welcome him with 3 loud salawats. Allah Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Sayyid, are you here?
I'm here. I'm here with you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam. Nice to see you. How are things? How's family?
That's my absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much for being here. It's an honor to have you. So Sayyid, we'll just begin by getting to know a bit about you and about yourself. So tell us a bit about yourself.
A bit about myself. That can be a very loaded question at times, but I grew up in the Texas area, just like everyone else. Went to university here. I did my master's actually in biology and the healthcare field. And then it was around that time, as I was finishing up my schooling, that I began to study under various ulama, points of theology, Arabic grammar, and many introductory studies that people, they undergo when they enter the realm of Islamic studies, such as morphology and mantiq, which is logic, Aristotelian logic. And then after that, I had the pleasure to move to the holy city of Najaf. And since then, the route has continued of Islamic studies.
Wonderful, nice. And how was living in Najaf and studying there?
Well, of course, right now with the current global situation, I'm currently in America, but it's an honor, to have had that opportunity. Najaf is Najaf is Najaf. There's not much more one can say after that than being by the shrine of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you. So then I'd just like to ask a few introductory questions now.
Absolutely.
Sure. So for starters, tell us what inspires, or what's an inspiration or some aspect in your life that's very important to you.
Well, that's an interesting question. I mean, in terms of what is a motivation and a driving factor, at least for me, it started, of course, at the root of everything is the love of Ahlul Bayt alayhim assalam and the service to Ahlul Bayt. So that, of course, is at the core of everything. But further than that, a key motivating factor for me is that, a person has a limited amount of time within this world. And that time, it really flies by. People look at a year, it's already nearing the end of March, and it just feels like this new year just began. And this is just one micro example. A lifetime passes in that manner. So, I've always believed it's very important that a person needs to strive to maximize his potential. And that is a motivating factor that really keeps myself going and should keep people going, because we only have one lifetime. And it would be a disservice to our own ability not to capitalize that by not making an effort. It's a one thing that, we try and there's circumstances outside of our hand, but it's different when you didn't try and you didn't make that effort. So that's just, one aspect of the discussion. Otherwise, there's many things which one holds dear to them and motivate them. It's not as simple as just one thing.
Definitely. Very well said. Inshallah, all of us can continue driving and reach towards our full potential, as you said, inshallah. The next question I'd like to ask is, what was your main reason for becoming a scholar? What inspired you to become a scholar?
Well, I mean, the word scholar is a very lofty word. I prefer a student of knowledge, a talib, so it's actually interesting in the Arabic language, the word talib is signified as a student when we translate it into English. But when we translate it into English, we lose the nuance, because talib really means to seek something. And knowledge is that risk and that sustenance, as Amir al-Mu'mineen says, that one has to seek. There's one type of sustenance that comes after you, and there's one which you go after. And that's really what ilm is. So, I mean, for me, it was really a natural curiosity to know. And I believe that a lot of learning is based on one's own curiosity and one's own interest. Each of us are different. There are certain people who are interested in physics and they're interested in medicine and different subjects, and that serves as their gateway and their pathway to serve Allah. Ultimately, a doctor is doing something which is useful if his niyyah and his intention is proper, or any other field. So in the same way, my interests really began to adopt towards these different sciences. I always had a great interest within the Arabic language, within concepts of theology and philosophy and different things of this nature. So that kind of really, I pursued my interest at the end of the day.
Alhamdulillah. Nice. That's a great segue, because so my next question, and how you're talking about seeking knowledge, would you agree, and I do know that you do agree, that one of the best ways of seeking knowledge is through books? And I do want to say that I did see your presentation and your panel in the Imam Ali Spirit of Reform conference, and a few questions from the community came up, if you don't mind.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Sure. So one of the questions is, which book would you say has had the most impact in your life?
Yeah, so Like it's a very difficult question to answer because there are so many different books that give you a particular perspective and an angle. So it's not always that it's one book which has a massive impact, but there's different books that when they're placed together, each gives you an angle, each gives you a piece. And when you put them together, you see the jigsaw pieces, as we would say, they're coming together. But with that said, I remember one of the first books which I read when I was probably, and by read, I mean properly read and took notes and cover to cover. I remember I read this when I was probably 16, 17 years old, was a book by the late Ayatollah Ibrahim Amini called Self-Building. And at that time, of course, I didn't know the Arabic language, so most of my reading then, would be in the English language. So I did find that book to be a very important book in my life, just in giving me the understanding of the importance of living a life of piety. And how can one really live such a life of piety? But after that, there's many books which have had a great influence. I mean, for example, the book Adabus Salat of Sayyid Khomeini, the etiquettes of prayer, which gives a great insight into really the journey of life through prayer. And then, after that, there's several other books, I believe, which are very important, but, sometimes to pick 3 or 4 out of a large list can be a bit overwhelming.
Mm-hmm, definitely. And how about the book that you're currently reading right now?
So I mean, I'm started going through, actually at the moment, I'm trying to think if I'm reading through anything in English, because most of my reading is either in Arabic, and if it's in English, it's more heavily towards the academic side as opposed to a general audience. So
Right.
currently I'm reading some texts on Islamic legal theory, some texts on Aristotelian logic. There's a couple academic works which I'm going through, such as The Succession to the Prophet Muhammad by Wilfred Madelung, which is a very interesting work in that, he is open to the Shi'i perspective. And it's interesting to see an academic acknowledge that history is not just, orthodox to what is, there is an orthodox history which does not include the importance of the imamat and those who hold on to the imama and the wilaya of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. And of course, whenever I give a book recommendation, and I always give this piece of advice, is that every recommendation should be taken with a grain of salt. Because although there are many books which are excellent, but a scholar, there is always ikhtilaf. There can be different viewpoints. There can be intellectual disagreements. Yes, there's one thing to have a personal, battle, but intellectually, there are disagreements and different points that come up. So this is where, alongside reading, mentorship is very important. When it comes to Islamic studies, and I'll say more generally, any field of studies, knowledge isn't really found in books. And I know that's very ironic after I had an entire seminar on books, and there's this whole bookshelf and, behind me, and we spend so much of our time reading. But at the end of the day, knowledge is contained in the hearts of the ulama. And these books are a gateway towards that heart. And that is why alongside books, mentorship is very important. And these were just, some thoughts that spurred from your question. We say in Arabic, al-kalam yajurru al-kalam. That, words and sentences often lead to new sentences.
Mm-hmm. Alhamdulillah. Very well said. I was actually going to ask if about book recommendations and how you're saying that, we have to take them with a grain of salt and with mentorship. So instead, would you, when you're talking about mentorship, would you say that, I'm trying to think about how I can phrase this question. Are you able to give a recommendation on books? Is that still fine? I guess.
No, absolutely. So, what I mean by that is not to discourage someone from reading. Absolutely.
Yeah.
One should read widely. one should read effectively. Reading should be a key portion of our lives. But what I really meant by that statement, it's very important that one keeps a relationship with ulama, whether it's the resident scholar of your city, whether it's different scholars that you stay in touch with, that you work with as an organization or within your personal life. And it gives a key element of guidance. But with that said, one's experience of learning heavily revolves around reading, and it heavily revolves because at the end of the day, books are a means to the views of scholars. Now, whether the scholar says something verbally or whether he writes it down, it's an avenue. But now as for book recommendations, I mean, there's so many book recommendations. It really depends which subject that you go into. For example, if you're interested in the sciences of the Quran and understanding the Quran more, I believe, a work on the Quran of Ayatollah Hui has been translated under the title of the Prolegomena to the Quran. So that's, for example, a very useful work in that arena. When it comes to, for example, history, I know that the works of Allama Bakir Qarashi, who was a scholar in Najaf who passed away, his books have been translated into the English language, and there is a biography for each of the Ma'sumin. When it comes to the tragedy of Karbala, which people often, it's a very common question that I receive, that, what are the sources for the tragedy and what can I read to understand more about, the journey of Imam al-Hussein. And, of course, we're celebrating the 3rd of Shaban, Jashan of Imam al-Hussein as well. So, in that realm, I believe that, the Maqtal of the scholar Sayyid ibn Tawus called Al-Lahuf has been translated. Now, although I originally read them in Arabic, I haven't seen the translation for many of these, but I know they're available. For example, the accounts of the tragedy of At-Taf, which is the oldest maqtal of Abu Mikhnaf, has been translated into English. And on top of that, there's so many different works. I mean, I believe Raza Shah Kazmi's book, Justice and Remembrance, for example, is a great insight into the life of Amir al-Mu'mineen. So this is a little bit of the realm of history. We discuss Quran. And then on top of that, as I mentioned, the recommendations of Self-Building by Ayatollah Ibrahim Amini. And then, I had mentioned a second book, I believe, as well, which The Disciplines of Prayer by Sayyid Khomeini. But on top of that, I mean, if you go to Al-Islam, I don't remember if it's .org or .com. It's one of the two.
Okay.
But if you
No problem,
if you go there, there's many works available in the English language. I haven't checked the website in a very long time, but several of the works of Shahid Mutahari and other great scholars who really dedicated themselves to the Islamic sciences.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you so much for those responses, and inshallah all of us can learn to read. Personally, me, especially in quarantine, we have so much time, and I got to start reading more, let me tell you.
Inshallah, quarantine is the opportunity, but of course, life is always busy, whether quarantine or not quarantine. But I believe I gave this advice in the Imam Ali Conference of Reform, or perhaps I didn't. But the best way to really start is to build a consistent routine. Even if it's only 5, 10, 15 minutes a day, you'll be surprised how much you can accomplish, even if it's a little bit, but you do it consistently. For example, people ask that, how do I learn the Arabic language? Do I need to spend hours and hours studying? I said, okay, in one angle, if you want to really get to the depths of it, yes, you have to dedicate yourself. There's no doubt. But if you're trying to build your vocabulary and understanding of the Quran, you would be surprised how much 10, 15, 20 minutes a day consistently, how far it can take you. And it's the same way with reading. That consistent effort, it really trains you. And from that, you grow. Because when you go to the gym, for example, the first day, you're not going to start lifting 300, 400 pound weights. At least I'm not. Maybe some of you can. But it takes time to get into the routine. And in the same way, the mind is a muscle as well. The mind requires that type of practice which comes through consistency.
Alhamdulillah. Very well said. Thank you so much. Yes.
My pleasure,
So
my pleasure.
we're gonna move on to our final segment of the questions,
Okay.
inshallah, and then I'll let you take it away for the lecture, which I'm really excited on hearing.
Inshallah.
Just a quick, short speed round, and I'll just ask a few. Okay. So, would you rather have iPhone or Samsung?
I didn't know I was here for brand endorsement as well, but
Yeah.
you know, I become a victim of habit with the iPhone. You know,
Okay.
after
Yeah.
using it several years, if it's not the blue text message box, then you know it doesn't get the job done anymore.
No problem. So, similar to my story, I used to have Androids, and then I tried iPhone, and I'd consider both, but right now it's iPhone for me.
That's how they trap you.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Okay, Xbox or PlayStation?
You know, to be honest, it's been quite some time since I've looked at either of those, but I believe I had a PlayStation when I did.
Oh, nice. Yeah. And okay, how about Keema or Subzi?
We'll go Subzi. We're staying healthy.
Subzi, nice. Okay, would you say going out or staying in?
I mean, you know, these days in quarantine, there's only one
Right.
option, but you know, I spend most of my time, you know, to myself, you know, busy in my work and busy in my studies and you know, spending time with my family, and that's
Nice.
usually where the majority of my time is spent.
Alhamdulillah. Yeah. And okay, just a few more.
Okay.
Chocolate, vanilla, or strawberry. We can add the third one in.
Definitely vanilla on my end. I like keeping it simple.
Nice. And last but not least, would you rather do the dishes or laundry?
Ideally neither, but you know, in the real
Well
world,
said.
you end up having to do both. So I put them on
Right.
the same level.
Very well said. Inshallah, thank you so much for all the responses. It
My
was great
pleasure,
to
my
get to
pleasure.
know you. And whenever you're ready, I'll let you take it away.
Okay. We'll go ahead and we'll begin with a Suratul Fatiha for the deceased of the organizers of this program, for your own deceased, as well as anyone who does not have people to recite Fatiha over them, as well as for the souls of the ulama who have passed and the shuhada. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الصادقين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وما خلقت الجن والإنس إلا ليعبدون. صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. The topic which I was requested to speak upon, and the first thing I would like to say is that, you know, we do have a limited time slot, so this won't be a full-length lecture, but rather it'll be some insights upon a topic which I was requested to speak upon, which is how does one lead a meaningful life? And I believe this question is quite appropriate for the occasion which we've gathered for. And that occasion is celebrating and commemorating the births of Sayyid al-Shuhada Aba Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam, the birth of Aba Fadl Abbas alayhi salam, and the birth of Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam. Because each of these gatherings, whether it is the Mawalid of Ahlul Bayt, the days of their birth, or whether it is a majlis within the commemoration of their martyrdom, each of these gatherings is an opportunity for us to reflect upon what is our purpose, and are we carrying out this purpose in the most optimum way. You see, it is through the love of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad that one really comes to understand how to live a meaningful life. Because a life of meaning can't be attained without the teachings of revelation. And revelation, it says, قُلْ لَا أَسْأَلُكُمْ عَلَيْهِ أَجْرًا إِلَّا الْمَوَدَّةَ فِي الْقُرْبَى, that, O Prophet, say to them that I ask for nothing in return except for love for my family. So with this introduction stated, the question is how does one lead a meaningful life? And I had the very difficult task of speaking about this topic as well as speaking about each of these three personalities, because each of these personalities, Sayyid al-Shuhada, Aba Fadl Abbas, Imam Zainul Abidin, each of them is worthy of a series, not just one lecture. But when you look at each of them, correct, and you look at their titles, there's something very interesting, and I wanted to link this fact to the lecture topic of tonight. When you look at the famous title of Imam al-Hussein, we see that his title is Aba Abdullah, the father of the servants of Allah. Now, of course, this was a title which served a historical function, but many ulama said that there is a deeper angle of this. And that deeper angle is that anyone who wants to be a servant of God, their pathway to do so is Sayyid al-Shuhada, that Imam al-Hussein is their spiritual father. So we see within this title, the word Abd, it comes. When we look at the famous title of Aba Fadl Abbas, within the ziyarah of Aba Fadl Abbas, we say, Assalamu alayka ya ayyuhal abdus saleh, that, O Aba Fadl Abbas, you are that righteous servant of Allah. So once again, we find that word abd. And of course, when it comes to Imam Ali ibn al-Hussein alayhi salam, the title of the Imam is what? It is Zainul Abidin, the ornament of the worshippers. And I believe this word abd is very important for us to understand what our purpose is and how to live a meaningful life. Because the first step to live a meaningful life is to understand what is our purpose in life. What is our goal within this world? If we don't have that purpose, if we don't have that goal, then it's very difficult for a person to live a meaningful life. Because what ultimately, at the end of the day, what motivates your actions? What motivates your actions is your purpose and the vision that you have. If you look at some of the most successful people in the world, whether it's somebody like Elon Musk, and I mean successful by a worldly standard, I don't mean by the spiritual hereafter standard as well, you find these people are driven. Now, it's a question of what is their motivation? Is their motivation something which carries on farther than themselves, farther than the society they live in and the world that we are in to the hereafter, or is it limited to that? That's a separate discussion. But you find that there is something which is motivating them. There is a goal which is driving them. But when it comes to the believers who have every avenue to reach perfection because they believed and they fell and they followed the revelation of God, you find this question becomes even more important. That what is our purpose? And over here, when it comes to understanding this purpose and this goal, we find that there is a verse of the Quran which is fundamental. And that verse of the Quran, it says, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسِ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. Allah within this verse, he says that I have not created the jinn and the human being except to worship me. So from this verse, on the apparent level, it seems that our purpose in living a meaningful life is to worship Allah. But over here, there's a question that follows from that as well. And that is the question that what does it mean to worship Allah? Is it simply that God created us to carry out 5 prayers a day, to fast in the month of Ramadan, to give charity, to stay away from certain actions which He has prohibited, and that is our goal and purpose in life only, or is it deeper than that? Now, without a doubt, each of these actions is important within its own place. Each of them serves a goal in carrying out this state of becoming an abd. But when you look at the traditions of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad, when they asked Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq alayhi salam that what does this verse really mean? Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq said, liya'budun means liya'rifun. That when this verse says, we have not created the jinn and the human being except to worship, what this worship is, it means to recognize Allah. And over here, you find that the goal of life is really to attain and to find closeness towards God and to attain perfection. You see, it's a very interesting question when we ask that why did God create the universe? Because if somebody were to ask me that why did you create this, supposing that I created something, the perspective you're asking from is that what was my motivation in creating that? But this isn't appropriate to say for Allah, because Allah doesn't create anything because He Himself has a need. That would imply that there is a shortcoming in God and God is trying to acquire something. This isn't appropriate for Allah. But rather, what I mean when I say our goal in life is that what is the direction we should move towards? And over here, you find that goal, which has been stated by different ulama, which revolves around ma'rifatullah, and to attain closeness towards Allah, and some even took it one step farther. They said the goal is not even closeness towards Allah, but rather it is to attain Allah. Now, what this means is a different discussion on its own, but this is the level of proximity that one is seeking to move towards. And all of this, it revolves around the idea of actualizing one's potential. You see, everything attains perfection according to its capacity. The perfection of a seed is to turn into a tree and for that tree to give fruit. The perfection of an animal is to serve a higher creation. As many of the verses of the Quran, they say that these different facets of creation have been made musakhar and subservient to the human being. But at that level, we need to ask that question, that number one, to live a meaningful life, number one, we understood that the purpose of life is to attain perfection. But the question that follows naturally from that at the second level is that what does it mean for the human being to attain perfection? What capacity does a human being have? You see, the human being is unique in all of God's creation, in the sense that Allah has given us a potential that surpasses any of His creation, that surpasses even the malaika and the angels. As Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam would say in a famous tradition that, oh human being, do you think that you're something small? But in reality, the entire universe is inside of you. That this is the capacity of the human being. And in reality, when we see this aspect, this capacity, one of the most powerful ways to understand that what type of perfection a human being can attain is by looking at the Ma'sumin and Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. Now, of course, without a doubt, we will never be able to attain their status because their status is given by Allah. But the other extreme of this is that some people say that because they're ma'soom, they can't be role models. No, one of the goals of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam is to show us what is ibadah, what is ubudiyah, how can we carry out our purpose upon this earth. You see, this is the difference between a hujjah, an imam, and a prophet and us. You and I, we usually try to live a purposeful life. If you and I are able to live a purposeful life, we would consider this a success. But no, Sayyid al-Shuhada, Aba Fadl Abbas, Imam Zainul Abidin, or those individuals, not only did they live a purposeful life, but they would show others a purpose to life. And there's a very big difference between the two. As in, when we look, when we look at Sayyid al-Shuhada, Imam al-Hussein, in his journey from Medina towards Karbala, there were many individuals the Imam would preach towards. And at the end of the day, the eternal destiny of those people changed. Why? Because the Imam would make an effort to guide those people. And this isn't a small statement. One's eternal destiny. It's stated that when Imam al-Hussein is going towards Karbala, the famous companion Zuhair ibn al-Qain, he wasn't with the Imam. And it's stated within the works of history, he had such a detest towards Sayyid al-Shuhada that as they were traveling, they happened to be going in the same direction. Imam al-Hussein would stop on one side of the stopping station and Zuhair would be on the opposite side. But Sayyid al-Shuhada, he sends his servant. He sends a servant to the camp of Zuhair. When he goes to the camp of Zuhair, you find the wife of Zuhair finds out that Sayyid al-Shuhada calls Zuhair. The wife of Zuhair says to Zuhair, "Are you going to go?" He says, "No." She says, "How strange is it that the son of Fatima is calling you, but you don't go?" You see, this shows that Zuhair ibn al-Qain, he didn't even want to speak to the Imam. But when he goes to Sayyid al-Shuhada, history doesn't record what conversation took place between him and the Imam, but all we know is that when he came, he said to his servants that you are free. He said to his wife, "You can go back. I am going with Hussein." You see, in one conversation, Imam al-Hussein instilled purpose into the life of Zuhair. And he did this with many companions. Somebody like Hurr, somebody like Burair. And in this manner, he would keep preaching towards the final moment. So once we have understood at the first level that the purpose of life needs to be understood to attain a meaningful life, and that purpose is perfection, we see how great a human being can be in the example of Ahlul Bayt. That, it's a point to think for, that it is an honor for us as human beings that Muhammad and Ali Muhammad were human beings. There were other creations, angels and whatnot, but Muhammad and Ali Muhammad were human beings is a great honor for us. And there's one scholar that would say that if only those angels who, when they saw Adam being created, they said to Allah, "Ataj'alu fiha man are you going to create someone who's going to shed blood upon the earth in corruption?" If only they saw Sayyid al-Shuhada on the day of Ashura in the capacity of a human being. So we see from this level that from the example of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, we begin to realize what capacity a human being can attain. Although their status is something which is given by God, they still serve as role models. But at the second level, after we've understood that our purpose is perfection and ma'rifatullah and to actualize our potential, and at the second level, we've referred to the life of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, we referred to the hadith of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. At the third level, a meaningful life requires effort. And this is something which is very important, because when a person stops striving, although it may bring him comfort for a small amount of time, in the long run, it's something which deteriorates the quality of his life. And this is something we recognize intuitively. When one would go to school and summer break would come in, that first week would feel amazing, that you have an entire week off. But many people, by the end of the summer, when month 3 comes in, month 4 comes in, they begin to feel uneasy of having free time. So this goes to show that, our state, the way we were created in a manner where one should continue to strive, one should continue to exert effort, one should continue to struggle. And there's many other practical examples I can give. For example, if you look at many studies say that within the first 3 years of retirement, a majority of illnesses they set in. So all of these different points, they go to show that for a life to be meaningful, a life to be successful, there needs to be a constant effort and there needs to be a constant struggle. And this is why we see that in Islam, there's a great emphasis which is given to a routine. For example, when we look at the times of prayer, Fajr, Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, Isha, we find that this is giving a routine in our life, and this is giving a structure within our life. And it's important for us to keep a structure to build a meaningful life. If you look at some of the most successful people by the worldly standard, or if you look at the most successful of ulama, you find that there is one quality within them. And that quality is that they utilize their time and they maximize their time. Why? Because when somebody is living a life of meaning, when somebody has understood their goal, and that goal is perfection, but perfection for each of us is different because you may have a different natural propensity than I do, and my natural inclinations may be different from yours. But once that is understood, then a person doesn't waste time. It's stated that, Shahid Bakr al-Sadr, that he wouldn't go and eat lunch, or he wouldn't go and, go and carry out a particular task which would bring difficulty on him. That task would have brought him ease, but he wouldn't carry it out. And, this wasn't a task that neglected his responsibilities. It was something that would bring him ease. But they said to him that, why don't you do that? He replies by saying, in that time, I could have read and reflected over half a book within that time. Now, this is an individual who has a purpose. And if you really want to understand how much is it that Allah respects a person who struggles, then look at the ziyarah of Aba Fadl Abbas alayhi salam. You see, the Imams, one may say, okay, the Imams are ma'asum, the Imams, are those 12 designated individuals. But when we look at Aba Fadl Abbas, that what is the status of Aba Fadl Abbas? When we read the ziyarah of Aba Fadl Abbas, we say, Assalamu alayka, ayyuhal abdus salih, al-muti lillahi wa li rasulihi wa li amir al-mu'minina wal Hassani wal Hussein. That, O Aba Fadl Abbas, O rightful servant of Allah, you obeyed the Prophet and Amir al-Mu'mineen and Imam Hassan and Imam al-Hussein. And then in a later line within this ziyarah, we say, Ashhadu annaka qad balagta fin nasiha wa a'tayta ghayat al-majhood. We say, O Aba Fadl Abbas, you had reached the peak of sincerity, and you are the one who exerted the maximum effort. You see, one of the aspects which made Aba Fadl Abbas Aba Fadl Abbas, and what is the status of Aba Fadl Abbas, that when you go to Karbala, on one side you see the dome of Sayyid al-Shuhada, and then on the other side you see the dome of Aba Fadl Abbas. And the same distance that is between Safa and Marwa at Hajj is the same distance between these two shrines. Now, you see that one of the reasons that Aba Fadl Abbas attained such a great status is that after understanding the purpose of a meaningful life, after understanding the capacity of a human being, Aba Fadl Abbas lived a life where he exerted an effort to actualize that potential. That even on the day of Ashura, that when Aba Fadl Abbas, he reaches the water, we have lines of poetry which were recorded in history. That Aba Fadl Abbas, he says, Ya nafsu min ba'd al-Hussein huni, wa ba'dahu la kunti aw takuni. هذا الحسين وارد المنون وتشربين بارد المعين. That Aba Fadl Abbas, when he reaches the water, he says, "O Hussein," he says, "O soul, after Hussein may you perish. After him neither were you nor will you be. Hussein is about to drink from the water of death, and you want to drink this water." So you see that even on such a day, Aba Fadl Abbas, he exerts this effort, and we see this quality through Imam after Imam, and we see this quality through all of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. I mentioned about Sayyid al-Shuhada. I mentioned about Aba Fadl Abbas, but when we look at Imam Zainul Abidin, it's stated that Imam Zainul Abidin, he spends his entire night worshipping Allah. And he worships Allah to the point that his feet, they began to swell. And somebody says to Imam Zainul Abidin that, how much are you worshipping? Is there anyone who worships more than you? Imam Zainul Abidin replies by saying that my worship is nothing compared to the worship of my grandfather Ali bin Abi Talib. And he brings out a place where the worship of Amir al-Mu'mineen was written, and he shows that. So we see that Imam Zainul Abidin, after Karbala, after all of these trials and tribulations, you find Imam Zainul Abidin exerted an effort. And that effort was found in his worship, whether it was worshiping to the point that there would be calluses on his forehead, or whether it was spreading the message of Allah, of the deen of Allah through the various du'as, which each of them are a university on their own. So to summarize the discussion, I'm coming towards the end of my time. When it comes to living a meaningful life, the first question we ponder over is, what is the goal of life? The second question that we ponder over after understanding the goal of life is that, what is our capacity at the general level as a human being? But at the third level, once we've understood that what is our capacity as a human being, we need to look intrinsically, and we need to do introspection and ask ourselves that, what is my personal quality? What is my personal talent that I can use in this path of perfection, and that which brings a benefit to society, and I can serve the deen of Allah? And each of us has this type of capacity. When we look at, for example, the seerah of Ahlul Bayt, each of them carried out a different goal according to their time period. In the same way, we need to ask ourselves that, according to our time period and according to our innate capabilities, what is my goal in attaining a meaningful life? And once we've answered these three qualities, the fourth element of a meaningful life is a life of struggle in the sense of making effort, and a life where one continues to strive. And the beauty of all of these different elements, and of course, this is a summarized discussion. As I said, my time was limited. This isn't a full-length lecture. Otherwise, there's much to say on this topic. The beauty is when all of these elements, they come together, then we begin to answer other questions. Questions such as, why is there hardship in life? You see, if your concept of what is the goal of life is simply to maximize pleasure and to minimize pain, then if you do every single thing right, you won't understand that, why is it that I still feel pain? That, oh Allah, I'm struggling. I stay away from that which you have prohibited, O Allah. What you have commanded, I do, O Allah. But why is it even then I face difficulties? But when we understand that our goal is to attain perfection, then even our lens on things such as trial and tribulation would begin to change. At that point, we will say, Oh Allah, I understand that this trial, yes, sometimes trials are my own doing, but sometimes trial and tribulation is there to help me attain my purpose, to allow me to develop, and to allow me to continue to live a meaningful life. And with that said, وَالْآخِرُ دَعْوَانَا عَنِ الْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. We end with a short prayer that, oh Allah, on this blessed occasion, we pray for those who are sick and ailing within our communities. There are many people who message me for dua, especially on these blessed nights of Shaban. Many people have family members with terminal illnesses. Many people are worried about their spouses, about their parents, about their siblings, about their children, that, oh Allah, on these nights, through the right of Babul Hawaij Aba Fadil Abbas, through the right of Sayyid al-Shuhada, Imam Zainul Abidin, Ya Allah, cure them. Ya Allah, we pray for the tawfiq to act upon the teachings of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad, to be granted the ziyarah of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad, to be granted the intercession of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad. And we pray for the hastening of the reappearance of the master of our time. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Alhamdulillah. Thank you so much, dear Sayyid Bilal Rizvi, for that wonderful,
It's my
wonderful
pleasure.
lecture and discussion. I just had a quick question.
Absolutely.
Is there an email that we can, if some of the community can reach you at, if they have any questions?
Absolutely. Perhaps you can type it in to the message box, and it's sbrizvi313@gmail.com. And you can reach me there. I'm pretty good about replying to emails. So inshallah.
Inshallah. Thank you so much for
It's my
your time.
pleasure, and may
Please,
Allah
by all
continue
means,
to give you all tawfiq and all that you are doing, and spreading the message of Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam.
Inshallah, alhamdulillah. So we will be continuing with the rest of our program, Sayyid. If you do want to join us, by all means, but we will continue here. We have Nasheed by Brother Muhammad Hassan Merchant. Hassan Merchant is a grade 12 student. Oh, so alaikum assalam. How are you?
I'm good, alhamdulillah. How are you today?
Good, alhamdulillah. So Hassan Merchant, he is a grade 12 student at Hugh McRoberts Secondary. He's planning on pursuing a Bachelor's of Business Administration degree at SFU BD, and currently he is a sanctuary manager at the Rabbitats Animal Rescue Society. Whenever you're ready, brother Hassan, you can take it away.
Oh, thank you.
And also for those that want to turn on their cameras and clap along, just have it muted, but you can definitely show the gesture and in the emotes too. Okay, whenever you're ready.
Thank you for the introduction, Brother Hamza. Before I begin, I just want to, give Kushali Mubarak to everybody on this auspicious occasion. We're celebrating the births of many important individuals to the Muslim community. And with that, I'll just get started with Salat Salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Ali Ali Maula, Ali Ali Maula, Ali Ali Maula, Ali. Ali Ali Maula, Ali Ali Maula, Ali Ali Maula, Ali. Ali Ali Maula, Ali Ali Maula, Ali Ali Maula, Ali. Ali Ali Maula, Ali Ali Maula, Ali Ali Maula, Ali. Love of Ali is a blessing Allah has given me. From my heart to my soul, Ali completely. He is the humble, giving at night so secretly. He is the generous who gives charity freely. He is the pure one serving Allah sincerely. He is the pure one serving Allah sincerely. He's the commander of the faithful Shia. Ali Ali Maula, Ali Ali Maula, Ali Ali Maula, Ali. Ali Ali Maula, Ali Ali Maula, Ali Ali Maula, Ali. Ali Ali Maula, Ali Ali Maula, Ali Ali Maula, Ali. Ali Ali Maula, Ali Ali Maula, Ali Ali Maula, Ali. He's the successor of the Prophet of Allah. He's the perfect match for Our Lady Zahra. His is the patience of Al-Hasan al-Mujtaba. His is the sacrifice for Islam in Karbala. He is the eloquence shown by Zainab Kubra. He is the eloquence shown by Zainab Kubra. His is the lineage of our awaited Savior. Ali Ali Maula, Ali Ali Maula, Ali Ali Maula, Ali. Ali Ali Maula, Ali Ali Maula, Ali Ali Maula, Ali. Ali Ali Maula, Ali Ali Maula, Ali Ali Maula, Ali. Ali Ali Maula, Ali Ali Maula, Ali Ali Maula, Ali. You are the pious, you are Imam al-Muttaqin. So many attributes, your character is pristine. You knew the secrets of Quran al-Hakim. You were the closest to Khatimun Nabiyyin. You are my guide to Sirat al-Mustaqim. You are my guide to Sirat al-Mustaqim. You are my leader, you are Amir al-Mu'mineen. Ali Ali Maula, Ali Ali Maula, Ali Ali Maula, Ali. Ali Ali Maula, Ali Ali Maula, Ali Ali Maula, Ali. Ali Ali Maula, Ali Ali Maula, Ali Ali Maula, Ali. Ali Ali Maula, Ali Ali Maula, Ali Ali Maula, Ali. صلوات اللهم صل
Allahumma
على
salli ala Muhammad
محمد
wa
وعلى
ali Muhammad. Thank you, Brother Hassan, for that wonderful nasheed. It's so nice to see new faces. And for anyone in the chat, that anytime you want to participate, just message me or anyone at the MYM team, and we'll be happy to have you join our program. We're going to continue with our game for the night. It is a Kahoot, so we'll have a bit of fun with that. I do want to mention anyone watching from YouTube right now, there is a delay that we took note of from our last program. So please join the Zoom so that you don't have to worry about the delay. Maybe if somebody can comment the Zoom link into the YouTube comments so that people can start joining from there. So we'll start with that soon. Let me see here. Okay, yeah. So in the meantime, if everyone wants to get their devices to get started, you can simply go on your phone and search up Kahoot.it. I think the app does work a little bit better. So just a heads up there. There will be prizes for first place, second place, and third place. So at the end of the program, please DM me your email address if you are in the top 3, and we can get you the prizes, inshallah, there. And the Zoom, the Kahoots will be starting. I'm just getting the game pin. And there it is. So there will be questions. There's going to be 5 questions on Imam Hussein, 5 questions on Imam Zain al-Abidin, and 5 questions on Hadrat Abbas. And then we'll have some 5 general questions as well. They'll be scattered here and there. There'll be 30 seconds per question. So the questions will appear on screen, and then you just click the color and or shape that represents the correct answer, and just waiting on everyone to join here. And once again, everyone on YouTube, if you do want to participate, please use the Zoom. But if you can still definitely participate even if you don't want to use Kahoot. We'll still show all the questions and you can follow along. I'll give just 2 more minutes maybe. So we'll start at 9:33. So just about 1 more minute. I think that might be everyone. Still got some people joining, but we will start at at 9:33. All right. Inshallah. 30 seconds left. And if you don't manage to make it in, no worries. By all means, continue following along. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We'll get started. All right, the first question of the night. When was Imam Hussein born? You have the 4th of Shaban, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. Correct answer is the 3rd of Shaban. And there's the point scores. Next question, which of the below surah of Holy Quran is related to Imam Hussein? 5 seconds left. Correct answer, Surah Fajr. There is the new update. All right. How long did Imam Sajjad live approximately? You have 63 years, 57 years, 60 years, and 36 years. Ten seconds. Correct answer, 57 years. All right, and there's the updated scoreboard. Moving right along. Imam's title Sajjad was known because of which of his frequent act? Supplications, fasting, prostrations, or bowing? Just about 5 seconds. The correct answer is Sajda. Updating the scoreboards. The next question. How many brothers did Hadrat Abbas have? You have 1 brother, 3, 4, or 5 brothers. Correct answer, 3 brothers. All right. When was Hadrat Abbas born? You have the 27th of Shaban, the 4th of Shaban, 14th, and 5th. And he was born on the 4th. There's the scoreboards. All right. Who was the first president of the United States? There's Barack Obama, Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, and John Kennedy. George Washington was the correct answer there. 3 players just hit a 5-answer streak. What is the technical term for a species that can live on both water and land? We have amphibians, arachnids, reptiles, and terrestrial animals. This might be a tough one. And correct answer is amphibians. We did have answers all around. In the lead, we have Mihak Merchant, followed by Ali G, Madiha Habiba, and Sami Nakvi. And there's always chances for everyone to catch up. In which city was Imam Hussein born? Medina, Kazmin, forgive my pronunciations, Mecca, or Kufa? Remember, you do gain slightly more points the faster you answer, but you do want to try to answer correctly. So take your time where needed. Next question. Hussein is from me and I am from Hussein. Who said the above hadith? About 5 seconds left. Correct answer, Prophet Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Next question. The date of birth of Imam Sajjad. So now, is it the 3rd Shaban, 5th, 4th, or 6th? The 5th is the correct answer. We'll update. 3 in a row by Gumber Merchant. Next question, name a book given to us by Imam Sajjad. Nice. So the correct answer was As-Sahifa Sajjadiyah. Now, next question, which was the first battle Hadrat Abbas fought in? Ooh, this one might be tricky. Correct answer, Battle of Siffin. And moving right along. Okay, and so now that his first battle we know was in the Battle of Siffin, how old was he in this battle? Correct answer is 13 years. And we did have answers all around, so that was a tricky question. And there's the scoreboards there. Next up, what continent are the pyramids of Giza located in? You have Asia, Africa, Europe, and it's supposed to say North America or South America, you could say. Okay, Africa is the correct answer. There's the scoreboard there. Reaching the final questions. Which of these is a famous cartoon character? You have Bugs Bunny, Mickey Mouse, SpongeBob SquarePants, and all of the above. This is one of those where it's good to look through and think about which one it could be. Correct answer, all of the above. And okay, what was the name of the angel? So now we're reaching, this is a tough question, I think, but it looks like everyone knows. Was the name of the angel who was healed from the cradle of Imam Hussein? And if you don't know any of these questions that we're asking, that's what it's all about. It's about learning, gaining new knowledge, testing yourself and having fun. Correct answer is Angel Fitrus. There's our scoreboards. And 8 players just hit a 3-answer streak. Very well done. Okay, who is the mother of Imam Sajjad? Correct answer, Lady Sheherbanu. Updating the scoreboards. Final two questions of the night. Where was Hazrat Abbas born? And Medina is the correct answer there. And the last question, what do you call a scientist who studies rocks? An anatomist, a geologist, a biologist, or an astrologist? Its correct answer is geologist. And congratulations to Habiba for making it third, Madiha for second, and Mehak Merchant first place. Congratulations, everyone. And there's the runner-ups there, Raza and Ali G. Thank you, everyone, for playing. And for the top three winners, if you see your name here, you could just DM me your email address and we can get you the prizes. We're going to move right along with the rest of the program. There is just one more thing we're going to try before we wrap up the night. And it's a whiteboard activity. So I'm going to need everyone's help with this. Just give me 1 second, see if I can set this up here. All right, so I have a whiteboard here with me. I don't know if you can see it clearly. Let's do it this way, like this. What I'm gonna do, so I'm gonna write some names up here. Hopefully you can see. And you can just comment in the Zoom. What I want to do is, and the more people that input, the better. We're going to write, when you think of Imam Hussein, Imam Sajjad, or Hazrat Abbas, hope you can see clearly. I want you guys, what is the first thing that comes to mind when you think about these three people, or either or, any one of them as well? What are things that come to mind? I see faith.
Patience.
Patience, nice. I want everyone to pitch in. I want everyone to at least say one thing. Bravery.
Love.
Love, nice. And feel free, to turn on your mics. Sacrifice. Strength.
Kindness.
And hardships.
Knowledge.
Knowledge. Honor. Honor, dua.
Respect.
Submission to Allah. Very powerful. Guidance. Nice. Keep them coming.
Gratefulness.
hope I'm not missing any here. MashaAllah. Dedication.
Positivity.
Positivity, nice. Loyalty. Loyalty. Islam. Let's see. Nice. Kindness. Let's see.
It looks great.
Looks really nice. Inshallah, I'll ask the team if we can post this on our Instagram or have it set up if anyone wants to have a picture. I think we'll leave it there. I'm gonna quickly go through them all. What have we written down here? And we'll end the program there. When we think about Imam Hussein, Imam Sajjad, and Hadrat Abbas, we think about dedication. We think about how dedicated they were, how loyal they were, how faithful they were. We think about Islam, about our religion. We think about patience. We remember to be patient just as they were. We think about kindness. We think about bravery and love and compassion. We think about sacrifice, strength. We think about hardships, about du'as and supplications, about honor, respect, about knowledge, about Karbala. We think about guidance, gratefulness, brotherhood, and we remember to be and to have submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Thank you all so much for joining our program. It's been a pleasure, and inshallah we can be like these three great men. If you have any other questions, please feel free to message the MYM team. We will end the program there. And once again, for anyone that does want to stay for the after program, turn on your mic and camera. That will have that there. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Sayyid Hamza, inshallah, we will have the breakout rooms for sisters
Sure.
and also brothers, inshallah. So the sisters and the brothers would feel more comfortable.
Sure, sounds good.